Good morning. It's good to see you all here. Well, help me welcome us all in. Sing along. We're all supposed to be here. We're in the right place at the right time. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. I'm in the right place at the right time. I am just where I'm supposed to be. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. Oh, my soul is welcome here. I am getting the message loud and clear. My soul is welcome here. 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 Welcome.
Good morning. Good to see you. Come on, keep those smiles on, because, it helps when you're up here to get your smiles. Absolutely. Look how we're almost filling this sanctuary. And you come back here, you hear? I'm Reverend Barb. I'm the Associate Minister as well as the Spiritual Director of Unity of Greater Rochester. And I truly am thrilled to see you here. Is there anyone here for the first time? If you could we won't make you stand up, but if we'll get a packet to you. Thank you, Joy. Huh? I remembered. Let's welcome Joy. Come on. And Jaron, have you been here before? Well, let's still give Jaron a hand here. Steve. Let's give Steve Steve! How are you? My friend and colleague, who's going to be a guest speaker here. John Celentani, Ellen's brother. I've got somebody from the wings calling out the next cues here. And Stan, who is our guest speaker today. Let's give Stan. Let me give you a little bit of background on Stan. As a longtime Unity student and member of the Unity Church of Greater Rochester, Stan brings with him a broad, in-depth perspective and understanding of Unity teachings. There is much we can glean from his wisdom and experience, and those are not empty words, really. I truly mean that. There are a number of people here whose doors, metaphorically, I tap on and say, can you share what your interpretation of this? What are your thoughts about that? And Stan is among those I see as my advisors, and I'm truly grateful, dear friend. I also, I understand that someone is celebrating a 6th birthday today. Sue, are you celebrating a 6th birthday today? 60th. That's what I said. My mouth just didn't make the word. 60th birthday. Let's honor Sue. And Usha, we're good to see you back and hoping that you're feeling well as well. Okay. Prayer chaplain, if you'll please bring up the prayer box. Our dear Catherine. Thank you, Catherine. Catherine heads up our prayer chaplains. Catherine also runs or oversees the meditations on Thursday afternoons. Catherine is a member of our board of trustees. Thank you, dear Catherine. I'd like to take a moment really to settle in. And as the prayer box is brought up and there are intentions within the prayer box, may we keep them within our prayers. We don't know exactly what people are seeking, but we know that together we are one. And as we extend our love to all of those requests or statements of gratitude, that our energy helps bring all of that into manifestation. As we all recognize the abundance of health and wealth and good cheer, and as we recognize that within ourselves, may we also affirm that to those who are mentioned here. I would also like us to keep within our prayers Roy and Daisy Williams. There is a sheet I put on the bulletin board. Roy is now receiving physical therapy. If you'd like to contact him or go visit, the contact information is there. May we keep John Taffner in our prayers. Dave Caffalone and family as they lay dear Carol to rest. Mike and Joan Gassick, Emily Lalka, Roz and JC, and those within your heart whom you'd like to offer a blessing. May we just have a moment of silence to offer each and every up into prayer. And so it is. The daily word. Sarva is going to read the daily word for us. Come on up, Sarva. Bernie? Thank you.
And today we celebrate freedom. Freedom, the divine presence within, guides me to freedom. At times, I may feel hemmed in by circumstances, limited by lack of opportunity, or faced with an unwelcome situation, and no, I'll add the word apparent, good choice. No apparent good choice. When that happens, I may feel anything but free. Rather than despair, I find my freedom in God and the limitless expression of my divinity. Shifting my perspective from the limits of the world to the expanse and perfection of spirit, peace fills me. I relax and remember that no earthly trouble is greater or more enduring than God. God is greater than any great one. I claim the power of God and feel a strength beyond mere human strength as moment by moment I release limiting beliefs and reclaim the power I had given to my problems. Spirit lives in me and as me. This truth is my freedom. Now God is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of that is, there is freedom.
And we remind ourselves of that spirit by singing together from the hymnal. Number 145. Sweep over my soul. Sweep over my soul. Sweep over my soul. Come, gracious Spirit, sweep over my soul. Sweep out hate and fear. Sweep out hate and fear. Come, gracious Spirit, sweep out hate and fear. Sweep in love and peace. Sweep in love and peace. Come, gracious Spirit, sweep in love and peace. Sweep in grace and joy. Sweep in grace and joy. Come, gracious Spirit, sweep in grace and joy.
May we repeat our affirmation together. We are all individualized expressions of the divine. Therefore, we are eligible for and capable of all that is true of God. I'd now like to invite up Stan Marshall.
The service and just use that affirmation. Roz selected it, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
Boy, tell her she did a damn good job. I wanted to say that, first of all, if for those of you that might want to doze off, look at who's here. Our favorite realtor and his wife. How are you? For those of you who want to doze off, John Vella, you might be in this category, so listen. Let me give you a two-sentence review of the whole talk so you can really go to sleep and forget the rest. The bottom line is the affirmation is absolutely on target. We're all individualized expressions of the divine. The trick sometimes is accessing that. Now, some of us have ways of accessing it, some of us don't. Some of us do it more frequently than others. I must confess, with age, I access it more frequently than I did at 21. Probably there's more reasons to access it. For example, Jerry Peters probably accesses on a wonderful day on Lake Ontario on his sailboat with a good chop and a stiff wind. I used to access it more when I had my skis on, swishing down Bristol on a snowy, sunny day. Some of you may access it more when you hear a piece of music. Some of you holding the hand of a loved one. Whatever way in which you can access shifting from your normal day-to-day tribulations, concerns, and thoughts into that fourth dimensional state or divine, whatever that is, find it, secure it, exercise it. So that's really the essence of the thing. So John, you can nod off now if you want. In November of 1975, I was at Unity in Syracuse. I have a problem between my glasses, so I have to look out like this and then look down. But anyhow, I was in Unity, Syracuse, and after the service, I went to the bookstore. And in the bookstore, I saw a book, which I have actually bought here for new people frequently over the years. And it was Discover the Power Within by Eric Butterworth. Now, Butterworth was a Manhattan Unity minister, very prominent. Catherine DeCosta's mother, Sarah, attended that church, as did Thomas Warfield. When I saw chapter 4, I knew I had to buy the book, and frankly, I bought it probably 30 or 40 times in the last some years. And because chapter 4 said, Jesus' unique concept of God. Now, I don't know why, but I never had thought of Jesus as anything more than God walking around in a body. To think of he had a concept of God was sort of like there were two entities here. I was hooked, I was interested. Today's lesson was in part inspired by chapter 4 and Discover the Power Within. Some of the questions probably you've asked, and certainly I think as one matures, you ask it with greater frequency, is who is God? What are God's characteristics? What's my relationship to God? What's God's relationship to me? This thing keeps popping around. Who's Jesus? What's my relationship to him? His to me? What's my concept of prayer? How does it work? The answers to these questions really were framed much of your and my life. And frankly, 136 years ago, Unity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore in Kansas City began to ask these questions, and the answers to those questions framed the Unity movement we know today. Now, Unity isn't the only one that thinks this. There are many other groups that do, but they were among the New Thought movement of the late 19th century. Early Christian leaders, for example, in an effort to sidetrack the early esoteric teachings of the Essenes, the Gnostics, declared that something Jesus never said, that he was God clothed as a man, and that he was not a human being as are we. The Council of Nicaea in 325 that Constantine called really basically did a job for setting up a religion about Jesus, not a religion by Jesus. For example, Jesus was suddenly the man who was the means by which a sin-filled man could reach heaven. Or the council pushed aside the belief that Jesus was a man with a special and unique message. In this council, the teaching about Jesus was about the divinity of man. Jesus' teaching about the divinity of man were really put aside. Jesus was stuck in a stained glass window and was suddenly venerated. His teachings were sidetracked or ignored. In order to distinguish Jesus from other humans, the whole original sin doctrine was originated. This was a way to sort of separate out man from Jesus. He was more special. He didn't really teach that, but that's what early church leaders devised as a means of separating it out. And for example, Psalm 51 was given a very central, prominent position within the development of this new religion about Jesus. For example, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. Well, that would suggest you probably need somebody to save you from that original sin. Old and New Testament differences are frequently described by a story which we've probably all heard. It could be a little boy or a little girl, but the Sunday school teacher asked at the end of the lessons of studying the Old and New Testament what that child, little girl will say's impression was. And she said, well, God got nicer at the end of the book. Charles Fillmore and God. Charles Fillmore stated the starting point for spiritual awakening is the right understanding of the Almighty. What are your concepts, deep-seated core concepts about God? Those kinds of answers to yourself really frame a lot of your reaction to life, the third dimensional world in which we live. Three prevailing concepts of God over time, and they're not the only ones, but I chose three. The Old Testament, God's judgmental, vigilant track of all of our sins, and hands out punishment as is appropriate. Javier knows about that. In the New Testament, God sent Jesus to absolve man from his original sin, and if you believe that Jesus died on the cross to save you from your sin, you made it. Or we can relook at the Jesus Christ messages interpreted by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And again, I particularly think those of you who are not unity, we're not necessarily promoting just unity as the only single group that ever thinks this. There are many others that do, but we happen to be in a unity church. Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were the founders of the church, the beginners, the kicking off of the process. They had the same message as did a lot of late 19th, early 20th century spiritual New Thought leaders. For example, and I'm going to throw these out, it's like name dropping. But if you get to the library, if you check it out, among the others who said really interpreted Jesus' message in the same way that Charles and Myrtle Fillmore did was Ralph Waldo Emerson. Amen. Florence Scovel Shinn, The Game of Life and How to Play It. H. Emily Cady, Lessons in Truth. How I Use Truth, and God in Ever-Present Help. 3 books. Very few ever know about the next 2 books. Emmett Fox, The Golden Key. There used to be a pamphlet out there that was a golden key. It was about 2 pages long. Frankly, you could take the golden key and just call it, that's it. You don't need more. But it's so simple that it's complicated. That's the problem. The simple messages are really the most profound, but they often don't seem complex enough for our human mind. Another one is Joseph Murphy, Church of Divine Science. By the way, Joseph Murphy was a unity minister here back in the 1920s, and an early unity of Rochester. Emma Curtis Hopkins, truly the mother of New Thought, who was an early disciple and worked with Mary Baker Eddy, Christian Science. Ernest Holmes, Religious Science, and Joel Goldsmith, The Infinite Way. There's a guy you should check into, an interesting one. Collectively, these New Thought teachers' interpretation of Jesus said that we're all individualized expressions of God. And as such, we're eligible for and capable of all that God is. The only obstacle to this is our inability or unwillingness to accept this truth. And that's a trick. That's really our biggest challenge usually at a deep core level. So we're all individualized expression of the divine. How many of us really believe that and feel it on a continuous, oh, well, you do. There are a few crazy people here. Good. I think with age, I feel it more so than I did, let's say, at 21. But it's something that comes, hopefully, with some time and maturity. Okay. And basically, our ability and willingness to accept that truth is really a key to the rest of our life. And the younger you can accept it, the richer that life will probably be. So what is Jesus' concept of God? Well, Jesus taught that humans have a divine dimension. Jesus said in Matthew 5:48, "Ye therefore shall be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." Would Jesus have said this if he had doubt about the fact that men and women are good? Jesus' entire message speaks to his belief in the divinity of man. To Jesus, the God, Father, was not an object of worship, but an indwelling presence, a force surrounding us, and a principle by which to live. Now that I have to think about, because I'm saying that and I intellectualize it, but if you can drop it deeper in, the divine is not an object, but an indwelling presence in us, and a force surrounding us, and a principle by which to live. And we have access to all that means. Unlimited access to that. Limited only by our belief about what God can do for us. Because God's ability to do for us is limited by our belief in what God can do for us. Jesus' concept of God is a long way from that by Moses. Jesus declared God is spirit and must be worshipped in spirit. That spirit is limitless, unformed, unrestricted. Jesus did not really define God, but gave a guide pointing us towards the infinite nature of the divine. Away from a God as a finite being, a superman who could be capricious. God is not capricious. It's steady and holding, unchanging. We're the capricious people. We're the capricious component of that formula. Jesus was trying to move man away from a concept of God that could be contained in an ark or a temple, away from thinking of God as up there, to encourage man to stop thinking of God, getting God's attention by prayer or by sacrifices. Jesus said about God that God is closer than breathing and nearer than our hands. The Father with me and you knows what you need before you ask, Matthew 6:8. God is always seeking to express itself through you and me. God is always seeking to express itself through you and me. Probably most part of the day, I don't think that doesn't feel true. But it is. When is that true for you to feel that? In Luke 12:32, Jesus declared, "Is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom?" Further, he stated that he could do nothing of himself, but the Father in him was doing these works and speaking these words. Now, within Unity or New Thought movement in general, and again, I broaden it out to New Thought as all these sort of metaphysical groups, of which there are many. They virtually exploded in the late 19th century. A kingdom, and frequently within New Thought and Unity, is really a state of consciousness. A state of consciousness which I describe as a fourth dimension. Even Charles Fillmore talked in third and fourth dimension. I don't know that Unity generally speaks in dimensions, but fourth dimension is that getting in touch with the divine. Whether you conceive it as out here or inside, but getting in touch with the divine, as opposed to the day-to-day third dimensional thinking that knows worries and human conditions and worries about past and future and what's happening. Jesus declared that we share his capabilities. You and I have the same capabilities that are as does God. Intellectually, I understand these words. We all do. It's not hard to understand with words. But to really capture what that means, we are all expressions of God. I need to stop thinking of myself as a separate entity from the divine, start thinking of myself as an expression of divine, a vehicle through which the divine expresses, to let God be God in me. When do you feel yourself as a vehicle for the divine? I can't say that I do every day. I would like to acquire that ability. I'm still working on it and pushing 82. I better hurry up. If I'm going to get there. I'm not young like Jerry. After 48 years of hearing this truth, knowing this truth, because I came here in March of 75, Jerry Bellinger was the minister. He was a great teacher. He wasn't particularly warm-hearted when you left the pulpit. He'd run out and get a cigarette right away. That was his first thing. He didn't want to talk to you. He'd already done his bit. But he was a great teacher. The bottom line, Elise Rosenberg, who was Unity Rochester, handpicked him in '66. Anyhow, I have to keep kickstarting myself to remember this truth and feel the truth. Now, when do I feel this truth that I'm really, God's working in and through me, I'm really an individualized expression of the divine? When I feel this most frequently is actually when I have, and since 71 I've had, it's not good? Okay. All right. Can you hear me? You couldn't hear me before?
Just start over.
Wow, I'm sorry you couldn't hear me. Jeez. You could? Amita? Okay. But you couldn't before up until this point? So the first... Better. Okay. All right. Okay. Usually they tell us such a big mouth that you don't need to do that. Anyhow, when I most feel the sense of the connection to the divinity is actually when I'm confronted with conditions, physical, financial, spiritual, that seemed to be beyond my ability to manage. And since I hit 71, it's about the last 10 years, I've had a lot of physical challenge. And basically, on one occasion, 2011, I was told I was within an hour of death. And I was so relaxed that the staff at Rochester General said, God, you're as relaxed as can be for a guy who's been told you could be dead in an hour. I just sort of melded into the fact that there was only God. It was all right. Whatever came out of it was fine. That was a great experience. Now, I wish I experienced that more frequently, but I did then. Anyhow, my goal, Jesus' goal for you and me, is to permanently remain in this higher state of consciousness, the Christ mind, to be plugged into divine that resides in each of us. Now, Butterworth described God in you and me in the following way. He said, God is not like the raisin in a bun, separate, but inside. God is really within us is like a drop of the seawater, not the whole sea, but containing all the ingredients of the sea. Now think of what that means. What are the implications for this with whatever challenge you're currently facing? You have all the ingredients of God within you. You have access to them. The trick is to access it. That's more the challenge. New concept of prayer. Are you about ready to give me the hook, Barb? No. Okay. Jesus revealed a new concept of prayer based on his unique concept of God, as interpreted by the Fillmores in New Thought. Most often, prayer has been asking God to do something, usually to modify God's plans for you, to accommodate your need for healing, for finances, for a relationship. Unity in New Thought see prayer as a means of shifting our consciousness from the human level to that Christ mind, that divine mind, that fourth dimensional level. The same level that I achieved in that 2011 occasion at Rochester General when I was told, buddy, you're just about over. And I sunk into the relaxation of knowing there was only God. To quote Joel Goldsmith, everything else is a lie. Okay, so bottom line is, at the human level, we know troubles. At the higher level, the superconsciousness level, really these troubles, so to speak, these human troubles, either fade away and resolve in a perfect way, although not necessarily perfect to our human thinking, or Goldsmith, who's a little more revolutionary mystical than metaphysical, he really says the problem never existed at that higher level. Jesus demonstrated his new concept of prayer by confidently thanking the divine for a solution to human challenge in advance of the manifestation of the solution. Now, that's a lot of words. Jesus demonstrated his. For example, when he was on the Mount, he said, yeah, I'll feed these thousands of people. He had no evidence of bread and fish. No, not sufficient. Maybe for himself and his gang, but not for thousands. He stepped out in faith. Now, that wasn't terribly miraculous, it seemed to me, if he was really God in a body. But what if he's a man with a special mission, who had tapped into his divinity while walking around as a human? Then it becomes miraculous. He stepped out in confidence. For example, Florence Scovel Shinn calls this digging our ditches. You know about digging our ditches? Yeah. What ditches have you dug? I have. For example, she talks about the fact that if you've got a drought, several years long, start digging ditches to capture the water that's going to come, even though you damn well don't have any sign or indication of rain coming. For example, this is a way of demonstrating your absolute, total, unequivocal faith that God will always provide the right solution at the right time. What ditches have you dug? Now, I consciously dug a ditch. I was only less than a year in Unity. Jerry Bellinger was up here, great teacher. As I said, he didn't want to talk to you, got to get a cigarette right after this lesson. But the bottom line, then he was down to the Penguin on Main Street. And don't bother him. He wanted to eat his eggs and drink his coffee. But the bottom line, I thought, if there's any truth to this unity stuff, I have to consciously step out in faith. So, July of 76, 8 months without a job, dwindling savings. I happened to see a sailboat across from my parents' cottage in Sodus Bay, and it was $7,200. Well, that was big bucks in those days, especially with my savings and no job. I liked the boat. I bought it, the small down payment, in full confidence that the right job at the right salary would show up, with no evidence that such would happen, but it would happen, I knew. I tested the theory out. I thought, well, if the theory doesn't work, what the hell? Put me in jail? There's no debtor's prison these days. But I thought, I stepped out. Within 3 weeks, I had a job at a third more than I had earned in the previous job. Now, for example, have you consciously and courageously stepped out? I bet you all have. I bet you all have. Think about the occasion when you courageously stepped out, no parachute, but you knew somehow. And it's usually when we don't have a lot of options. But I had some options. I didn't have to buy that boat. When have you actually changed jobs without any guarantee that there was another job waiting? Bought new clothes for that interview, although I don't think they dress up much for interviews anymore. But in my day, they did. Okay. Myrtle Fillmore actually consciously stepped out in faith in the formation of unity. She was in need of money, seemingly in need of money, but she was constantly helping and giving money out of the little she had. H. Emily Cady, and particularly her How I Use Truth, her second book from 1906, did exactly the same thing. She stepped out in faith with no guarantees to help her father, who is unlawfully, erroneously imprisoned, and also a brother who is an alcoholic. If you haven't read H. Emily Cady's Lessons in Truth, are great. How I Use Truth is how she actually applied the principles to her own actual problems, including she promised she would never charge for her medical services. She nearly starved to death doing that for 2 years until she realized she had never asked God to help. You can have a wish, but you need to ask. Okay, Jesus stated that we could too make the same claim on God by raising our consciousness as Jesus did time and again. Jesus demonstrated confident prayer, almost arrogant to the Jewish leaders of his time, who used, rituals, slaughter a lamb, all such stuff to do. When have you been so arrogantly confident? Think about it again. Jesus based the principle of one unchanging God, based on the principle that God knows no poverty, no lack, no sickness, no anything negative. These only exist at a third dimensional level. Prayer and meditation is demonstrated by Jesus to lift oneself in conscious level of the divine mind or Christ's mind, where the problem resolves in a perfect way. Charles Fillmore grew his damaged and shortened leg this way. Myrtle Fillmore cured herself of TB with this principle. Jesus challenged us to recognize and live this truth by stepping up our consciousness to the level of superconsciousness, as was called by Florence Scovel Shinn. And all these terms, superconscious, third dimension, fourth dimension, there's no magic in them. They're just our inadequate way of expressing something that's beyond tangible. He coached us in Matthew 6:33, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and as a byproduct, my words, not his, our earthly challenges will resolve in a perfect way. This is Emmett Fox's golden key. You got a problem? Don't look at the problem. Look at God however you interpret God. That's as simple as the golden key. And if you just do that, you probably got it all, and you can show up or not show up, but you got the message. That's really the essence of the whole unity movement. H. Emily Cady's theme in her 3 books was also the same, except her 3rd book, 1916, was God, a Present Help. Very seldom read, hardly known, powerful. Unity New Thought teachers such as Goldsmith suggest that God is an experience beyond words and thoughts. Words and thoughts, meditations, all of these things can help us to move us to that experience, but the experience is beyond words and thoughts. Unity's key principles reflect Jesus' concept of God. God is good. Only one presence in my life and in the universe. People are good. Our essence is of God. We are inherently good. Thoughts create expressions. Think about this one. This was almost magical when I first heard it, and I tend to have drifted away from it time to time. It's almost as if our thoughts, there's the ethereal mass. Our thoughts take that mass and sculpt it. Thoughts held in mind, an old Unity adage, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. If our gut deep-seated feelings are that we're a shit, your life's going to reflect that. If your deep-seated feeling is essentially the world is good despite all sorts of things that are out here that don't appear to be good, that's probably going to frame most of your life. If you're Almeida, of course, everything is good because she feels only good. I know. I said, where did you get your medicine? Okay, within. Okay, good answer. We practiced that, didn't we? Yeah. Prayer is connection. Through prayer and meditation, we align ourselves, heart and mind, with God. Now, Unity talks about denials and affirmations. I don't do too much in affirmations and denials, but they're useful because all they're really doing, there's no magic to them. Although people sometimes attach themselves to that, much like a good Catholic will use the rosary beads almost rotely. And if it helps, it helps. I'm not going to say it doesn't. But affirmations and denials are simply ways of getting ourselves lined up. We're coming to the end, Barb. Lunch will be served soon, I'm sure. The basis of Jesus' unique concept of God is his awareness of his oneness and his spiritual unity with the divine. We have the same capability. When have we felt this awareness? I encourage you to think about those things, to see experience in your life. When have you felt that? When have you stepped out courageously? When have you experienced that oneness? The becoming aware is likely the biggest hurdle on our spiritual growth. Not thinking about or wishing for achieving, but this awareness, raising our consciousness from the material level to the 4th dimension. Becoming aware is very much an individual experience. It could be aided by prayer, meditation, affirmations, positive thoughts, music, swooshing down a mountain on a sunny day at Bristol, sailing off of Pulteneyville on a stiff breeze with chop, listening to some particular opera. I like Maria Callas's arias. That inspires me. Okay. Myrtle Fillmore needed more health, so she talked to her lungs. She thought healing. She visualized healing. Nancy told us this several weeks ago. She acted health. She spent hours in the silence, regardless of the appearance of TB, until her TB was freed. She was free of it in 1889. New Thought giants such as Fillmore's, H. Emily Cady, Ernest Holmes, Emmett Fox all suggest very similar ways for persons to achieve this awareness for themselves. Unity poet James Dillard Freeman's question to God captures the commonality of these suggestions. I think this is the most critical. John, wake up again. This is critical now. I let him doze, but I wake him up on the important points. The answer he heard in asking God, teach me to control my thoughts and master myself. The answer he heard was, be still. Freeman then said to God, in praying, what do I do first? The answer, do nothing. Jesus' unique concept of God and prayer are what Myrtle and Charles Fillmore discovered for themselves in Kansas City in 1887. Their personal awakening to these concepts and their application to their own lives really propelled the creation of the Unity movement. Myrtle Fillmore demonstrated, and by the way, if you don't read Myrtle Fillmore, and Nancy suggested, Healing Letters, outstanding. One of my first, probably the top 3 to-go books is Myrtle Fillmore. Charles is a little more obtuse. If you're into an intellectual exploration, read Charles. The bottom line is, Myrtle Fillmore demonstrated that miracles occur when we experience the presence, and that the presence is experienced most fully in the silence. That's it. Okay. Are you going to sing now or do something? Yeah. Oh, no. And then we do the meditation.
Let's prepare ourselves for meditation. Please join with me in singing, I Close Myself Safely Round. It's on page 66 of the hymnal. It's pretty simple. I clothe myself safely round with infinite love and wisdom. I clothe myself safely round with infinite love and wisdom. With love, with infinite love and wisdom. I clothe myself safely round with infinite love and wisdom. I clothe myself safely round with infinite love and wisdom. With love, infinite love and wisdom.
I think this is the best part, is the meditation. And John Celentani, Eleanor's brother, here in the back, and we all know that Eleanor, if you were here during Eleanor's time, she was outstanding in her meditations. And after she retired, I asked her for a copy of her meditation. She said, well, Stan, I never wrote them down. Do you remember, if you remember, she hesitated between each step. She waited for Spirit to speak to her. That's why they were so profound. So as we get quiet, I'll say a few things, then we'll go into the silence. Now is the time to go into the silence. Now is the time to connect with God within. Peace, be still. Quiet stillness fills you. You know that your good is received first in your consciousness and then in the outer. You know that your thoughts are seeds you plant in the garden of your mind. For this moment, you choose to be free of thoughts which limit you. For this moment, you choose to align yourself with your truth as a child of God. Now gently meld into the holy silence within you. In the silence, silence. Now may you take this silence with you today. Even though you may be busy on the outside, you can retain a lot of this silence inside. Thank you.
May we recite together the Lord's Prayer. Our Creator, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And leave us not into temptation, but deliver us from error. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory, now and forever. Amen. And from our abundance, may we offer divine love, together please, divine love flowing through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful.
Many nights we prayed with no proof anyone could hear. In our hearts a hopeful song we barely understood. Now we are not afraid, although we know there's much to fear. We were moving mountains long before we knew we could. Oh, there can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. You will when you believe. In this time of fear, when prayer so often proves in vain, hope seems like the summer bird too swiftly flown away. Yet now I'm standing here, my heart's so full I can't explain, seeking faith and speaking words I never thought I'd say. There can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow it will. You will when you believe. They don't always happen when you ask. A small but still resilient voice says hope is very near. Oh, there can be miracles when you believe. Though hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe? Somehow you will. Now you will. You will when you believe. Oh, you will when you believe. Just believe.
Wow. Wow. Oh, yes. Hi, how are you? How are you? From your abundance, we offer gratitude. We offer gratitude for that which you have shared so abundantly with all of us within this community. May your offerings bring our church to greater abundance so that we may serve even more, so that our sanctuary will burst with the presence of all the loving souls who wish to hear the word of God and recognize that God expresses through them and through each of us. And so it is. Amen. Do you feel it? I am feeling it. Stan, thank you. Thank you for your words, for your inspiration, for reminding us of the foundation of unity and all of the leaders in the unity movement, whom we truly want to avail ourselves of their insights and their knowledge and all that they can share with us, and recognizing the divine that is within. Jerry and Aisha, thank you. Thank you for expressing the God, the divine within yourselves, for all of you. Our dear Lord, our dear Creator, our dear God, gratitude. Gratitude as we express love and peace and joy, and as that God presence within us leaves us and extends to others in our presence, and that we may feel the God through them that is being extended to us. Thank you for that. For our weekly announcements, we want classes here. We want to share with each other from our knowledge base. We want to take these wonderful leaders, the biblical teachings. We want to share. We want to have conversations. Let me know if that's something that you're interested in. I'll help you formulate your thoughts. I still need platform assistance. Someone who's doing what I'm doing right now in case I'm not present. We just need 2 more guest speakers for the first 6 months. Hi, Finn. Hi, Finn. How are you? It's good to see you. Be sure to say hi to Finn. He's shy, and we don't want to overwhelm him, but let's make sure Finn feels welcome in our presence. So we need 2 guest speakers, one for Father's Day. Doesn't mean it has to be a male. I could think of a wonderful Father's Day lesson to share about my father, but it's for one of you. And also on March 5th. So if you're interested, let me know. We'll work something out. 25-minute noon meditation every Thursday. Catherine oversees that, and various prayer chaplains facilitate. Come and hear in the silence. Some words of inspiration are offered. And then, as Stan was saying, the importance of the silence. And that's a good reminder for me as well, Stan. Oops, go forward. I facilitate a course in miracles here. We have, just for the month of January and the first week of February, I've moved it to Wednesday instead of Thursday because I'm taking a class on coaching in ministry. It's interesting. It's wonderful. Prayer chaplains are available after the service around the sanctuary. Please avail yourselves of them, even if you just want to stand in the silence with them. Come on now. Come on now. There we go. The prayer for protection. Words by James Dillett Freeman. We ask you to join with Aisha and myself. I want to hear you, please, and I want your voices to be heard on our live stream. Please join in with us. We're going to go around twice. Do it twice. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you, my friend. And together, may we join a circle around the sanctuary. Hold hands if you like. Place your hands up in the air, whatever you're most comfortable with. We'll sing around, Let There Be Peace. Oh, this is so wonderful. And Bernie, if you want to take my mic out, that would be great. Thank you. Whenever you're ready, Jerry. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for your love and your joy. Happy birthday, Sue, 60th. Enjoy fellowship and coffee out there.